Hi guys! So today we're going to be touching the subject on 5 things, and these are the 5 things that we're going to be studying on today. And this here is the book that has these 5 subjects. So basically it's DID, and it's 5 comprehensive guidelines to healing. And this book here has 217 pages, and it was published in 2023 by Verici Shivan. I don't know if I pronounced that right or not, but there's a lot of things in this book that are very useful, and so I found it to be a good book. So the first subject is trauma, and I want to be very detailed before I get into this book about trauma. There are 2 types of trauma. There's trauma 1 and trauma 2. Trauma 1 is usually 1 to 2, maybe 3 traumas in a lifetime, but trauma 2 is more leaning towards DID, which is dissociative identity disorder, and trauma 2 is a complexity of traumas, which is traumas that have happened over a lifespan, hence the word complex post-traumatic stress disorder, because DID and complex post-traumatic stress disorder go together. So you have to be diagnosed with complex PTSD before you can having DID. So I just want to clarify that. So first we're going to talk about trauma and the risk factors in DID, and one is age. And it states here, though dissociative disorders can occur at any age, they often surface in late adolescence or early childhood, a period akin to navigating a complex labyrinth of self-discovery. And the reason that that DID doesn't usually show up till after the age of about 20-25 is because your brain is still developing, and it's still using them coping mechanisms in a good way, okay, that come with DID. But as you get older and more stable and you start to seek help, you will notice that these dissociative alternative states are not helping you, and they're making life so much worse, which is the reason why it takes so many years to get an assessment and diagnostics on DID. People like to throw that theory around and say, oh, it starts at 5-6 years old. Not dissociative identity disorder, but dissociative states and alternative states start to show up at that time, usually before the age of 6, because you are dealing with severe complex trauma 2, which is severe trauma. Okay. So another one here is personal history of disassociation. If one has previously used disassociation as a coping mechanism, even in milder forms, it can become a paved path towards more severe dissociative disorders. So they're talking about how, a therapist can kind of get into that and look into the history of it. Here it's family history. Genetics and family environment may also weave into this tapestry, where a family history of trauma or dissociative disorders can add layers to the risk. Okay. Another thing is amnesia in trauma. Individuals often experience gaps in memory, including personal information, daily activities, and traumatic events. This amnesia is usually not explained by ordinary forgetfulness. So over time, I literally didn't understand what was wrong with me. I knew I lost time, but I thought everybody lost time. I thought everybody was the same. I really didn't think. I just thought I was just an odd kid. I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, especially when I went through the trauma. I thought in some ways there would be moments where I'd go, I remember bits and pieces of something happening, but I don't remember what happened. And even today, I still have them moments where I'm like, I've been here before. I've seen these doors. I've seen these floors. I remember this office. I just had it happen yesterday while I was in DVR in an old office in a town that I used to live in. And I was telling my therapist, this seems familiar. We need to touch bases on this. I can't remember, but there's something here. But anyway, depersonalization. This involves feeling detached from one's body or thoughts, as if observing oneself from a distance. It's akin to being a spectator in your own life. That's basically the short version on trauma in this book. There's a lot more. You just have to order the book to read it. But I kind of wanted to touch bases on trauma to begin with because that is the main focus in healing your DID, is getting through your trauma, remembering your trauma. Sight, smells, sounds, touch are all part of that trauma. So, to be able to control those issues that you have in your DID helps a lot. And that's why we are going to get in the longer subject of symptoms next and treatment. So next we're going to get into symptoms, but I'm going to skip the basics because most of us know what the symptoms consist of. So I want to get into more detail of the more odd symptoms and things that people that have DID don't really know about. So one is emotional numbness. A sense of emotional disconnect or numbness is common. Emotional responses may feel muted or absent. So there are times where, personal experience, I go into therapy and I'm talking and I'm doing well just as I am right now, but she will touch on the subject about my past and I start to stumble. My words don't come out correct, and then all of a sudden I just go numb. I show no emotion, I'm froze, and I'm muted. I basically don't talk it can go on for a half hour to an hour sometimes. It's almost like my brain's trying to connect an alternative state or trying to figure out where to go next to protect me. And it's pretty common in DID to have them kind of responses, and therapists that are trained in it are very good at dealing with it. Distorted perception of time and space. Time may seem to slow down or speed up. Spatial distortions can occur, making objects appear large, smaller, closer, or farther away than they actually are. Sense of unreality. The world may seem dreamlike or artificial. Familiar surroundings might suddenly feel strange or unfamiliar. And I've had that happen when I wake up in therapy after I've lost time and I'm just like, okay, is it this week or next week or what did I do? And it's very confusing, but when you've done it for so long, where you just know you're going to be okay, because you have this huge support team. Cognitive disruptions. Concentration and memory can be affected, leading to difficulties in everyday functioning. So basically they're talking about certain things like I used to do, where I would have things in my fridge that were hidden because we were starved. So there's alters that want to hide food under my bed, food hidden in my loft. And in the old home, it was the same thing. They would do these odd things or think the world was going to come to an end. I can remember all of a sudden wanting a garden and excessively cropping and farming because we thought the world was going to end. And it was so odd because I could sense that alternative state, but I really didn't know what to do with it. I was just like, okay, just let it happen, kind of thing. So next you'll have gaps in memory. Okay. This is the hallmark symptom. It's like having blank spaces in a photo album. These gaps often involve significant life events or traumatic experiences. Identity confusion or alteration, you know about that. Stress and anxiety, difficulty with day-to-day functioning, and there are times where DID will have I call it a run phase, and they alternative states will literally say run. Apparently, it's been popping up. It never used to, but in the past month of work, I've had my daughter mention that's been happening. So sudden travel and wandering to feel safe, to leave, to find a protective place to go. So another thing I want to reflect on with symptoms is basically somatic symptoms. And I do have some videos about that, so look into it. Somatic symptoms can be very traumatic and traumatizing in your life if you have dissociative identity disorder. The ailments can also be permanent if you do not seek treatment sooner. For me, my personal issues are like fibromyalgia, degenerative disease. I have thyroid issues, fluctuation in blood pressure and heart rate, and a lot of other, tons and tons of other things, PCOS, it just goes on and on. But because I'm older, it took me 9 years just to get the treatment I needed. So over time, my body took a beating from it. Somatic symptoms can cause a lot of issues, especially with your vagus nerve and your nerves in themselves. So next we're going to get into the treatment issues and treatment process of DID. And one is detailed history. A comprehensive personal and family history is vital. This often involves discussion about childhood trauma and the onset of symptoms. Another one is a psychological evaluation. This may include structured interviews and, in some cases, psychological tests to rule out other conditions. And that's very important because dissociative amnesia and dissociative issues can be shown in other disorders and conditions. And it states here, ruling out conditions. It's crucial to exclude other mental health disorders, substance abuse, and medical conditions that can mimic DID symptoms. So I'm going to say again, remember when I talked about getting an assessment, how I had to go off any kind of drugs, alcohol, you name it, all has to be out of your body before a proper assessment can be done. Another thing is collaboration. Involving a multiple disciplinary team can be beneficial, as DID often coexists with other conditions like CPTSD, depression, and anxiety. So again, I have talked about this in my other videos where you want to collab and make a team. You want to involve your medical practitioner with your mental health practitioner and your psychologist with your therapist, etc. It's like me. I have disability with my therapist. I have medical with my therapist. I'm working towards with DVR, who work with disabled people, to maybe look towards doing schooling here at home. So a few other things is family therapy. Involving family members can be crucial, providing support and understanding to the patient and educating the family about the condition. So again, family involved in your therapy is vital as well to healing. You want to have your children, your husband, or your spouse involved in your healing process with therapy, medical-wise, everything, because it's going to help you get through this easier. Safety planning. For individuals who experience severe dissociative episodes, safety planning is essential to preventing self-harm or risky behaviors. So if there's something that you have to go to that you know you're going to have alternative states take over, or it's going to be stressful or anxiety-ridden, plan ahead with your spouse and children to how you're going to confront this issue, or party, or planning, or whatever, especially if you have agoraphobic issues like me, which can lead to a lot of issues. You also want to have some support groups that are honest and to the point. Ongoing therapy, continued therapeutic support is crucial for managing DID and is often a long-term condition. The treatment and management of DID are not one size fits all. They need to be as modified and individualized as the disorder itself. With the right combination of therapy, support, and self-management strategies, many individuals with DID can lead fulfilling lives. So more available treatment that I want you to know and understand which is part of my therapy, is psychotherapy, which is talk therapy. And you can look up the definitions or order the book. They have them in here, but I'm not going to give you the definitions right now. Cognitive behavioral therapy, which is CBT. Dialectical behavioral therapy, which is DBT. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is EMDR. Family therapy, which is a therapy that involves your children, your spouse, etc., or sisters, brothers, whatever. Creative therapy such as art, music, etc. Mindfulness and stress reduction techniques. So, and I talk a little bit about that as well. Medication. Now, medication is vital on how you take it and how not to get addicted to it, and it's a temporary fix for sleep issues, things like that, and DID, don't get hooked on it. You also want to have small support groups, people that are going to understand your issues and not publicly shame you or humiliate you. Another thing that's important in the beginning of your treatment is to have an initial consultation. The first step is a comprehensive interview. Think of it as a conversation where the individual shares their experiences, symptoms, and life story. The healthcare professional listens, not just with their ears, but with their expertise, picking up clues along the way. So basically, your therapist is an investigator of who you are, and what you've been through. And it is their job to figure you out. Collecting past history, collecting pictures, images, sounds, stories from individuals that have been in your life, etc. And a few other things you want to look into is a psychological evaluation. This is going to give more detail on what's going on with you. This is where the layers of the mind are gently peeled back Through various psychological tests and assessments, mental health professionals try to understand and know thought patterns, emotions, and behaviors of the individual. Another thing to consider is your cultural background. And the reason I bring that in is because alternative states can have multiple different cultural beliefs, and they can be very heavily embedded. So that is something else that your therapist may have to touch bases with or understand, keeping things very mutual. The other thing is understanding the role of trauma and patient collaboration, which basically a patient is kind of the key tool to healing. Your therapist is more like a guide or a tool to that healing. They will help you to understand your disorder more and base your therapy on you. So here's a few other things. I'm not going to go into the detail of it, but a few other things that are on here. One is grounding techniques. And grounding techniques are where you notice sight, smells, sounds, and smells, and even touch. And EFT is a touch technique therapy that if it can be used on you, give it a try. If not, that's okay too. Everything is based around your individual needs. Mindfulness and meditation, routine and structure is vital. So try to get into a routine, a daily routine of some sort. For me, routine is different every day, but I'm still in the same place, same location, and it's soothing. Journaling and self-reflecting, creative outlets such as artwork, music, which is something that is very vital in my grounding techniques. Music and painting, drawing are all very grounding. Physical activity, that's a challenge. So physical activities, if you have disabilities or are a little more older like me, where you have ailments like fibromyalgia and things like that, it may be more difficult for you to do physical activities, but there are ways around that, and you're more than welcome to ask questions on that anytime. Connecting with others and healthy lifestyle choices, relaxing techniques. That's vital. So if you are working on something, and if you're anything like me where you have a little bit of OCD and you're driven with your DID or your alters are driven, it is vital to take breaks. Relax, take a nap. Who cares? You know, we all live, we all die, we're all born, you know. Why waste it? If you need to relax, do it. It's worth it. So embracing acceptance, and that's a big one. A lot of people with DID have enmeshment issues, which they feel they have to be needed and wanted, and instead of loving themselves. So next I want to bring into the treatment plan therapeutic skills and your therapist skills. Facilitator of self-discovery. So the therapist acts as a mirror, reflecting back the thoughts, feelings, and experiences of the client. They facilitate a process of self-discovery, helping individuals understand the complexities of their dissociative experiences and identify patterns that might be hindering their growth. Another role is in a person that specializes in DID is an educator and guide. Therapists often take on the role of educators. Now, if you remember, if you go back in my previous videos, I talk about how a therapist is like a teacher. They can love and care about you deeply, but they also have to have boundaries. They provide information about dissociative disorders and their manifestations. They demystify symptoms, offering explanations and reassurance. As guides, they present various therapeutic options and help clients navigate the choices that align best with their needs and goals. And another thing they do is skill build. Therapists equip clients with practical tools and skills to manage symptoms and navigate daily challenges. Whether it's teaching grounding techniques for dissociative episodes or coping strategies for stress, they empower clients to take an active role in their healing. So it is vital that your therapist be a part of this healing process. Without it, you will get nowhere. In fact, your symptoms will probably get worse. Having a therapist and advocates to help you through it is vital. So here it states, the therapist navigates the complexities of the therapeutic relationship, maintaining professional boundaries while being emotionally present. They balance support with challenge, guiding clients through difficult emotions and experiences while ensuring a safe therapeutic space. So basically, in summary, the role of the therapist in treating dissociative disorders is dynamic and holistic. They wear many hats, from compassionate listeners to skill builders, and so forth. So it's like my therapist. She has a boundary. Little, she can be very compassionate, use EFT skills, which is a touch therapy, to guide a little, to help them to speak. but like I'd stated before, there are times where if I'm back out and I don't like touch, she'll back away. Basically meeting the needs of each alternative state based on their personal problems and issues. Now, there are two other things I want to talk about here, and that is regular check-ins with your healthcare providers. Emphasize the importance of maintaining regular appointments with therapists, psychiatrists, and other healthcare providers. It is vital for DID treatment and understanding to stick with your appointments. And that is including the medical part of it, which is very traumatizing for me. But I take my therapist with me to my medical appointments, because that way the doctor has more of an understanding, data can be received, and things are understood. That is something that you can do, and it is professionally done with boundaries, of course, depending on if your therapist is male or female or whatever. Updating treatment plans. Understand the need for periodic re-evaluation and adjustment of treatment plans to align with changes, needs, and progress. So every 3 months, my therapist reassesses me based on my CPTSD, my disassociation, and whatnot. I don't remember the test, but it's usually about every 3 months. Now, a few other mindful-based approaches is MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction. Dive into the world of MBSR and its potential benefits for individuals with dissociative disorders. Discuss studies that explore its effects in reducing dissociative symptoms and improving emotional regulation. Another one is MBCT, which is mindfulness based on cognitive therapy. Explore the integration of mindfulness practices with cognitive therapy and how this approach might help patients become more aware of their dissociative stage and manage them effectively. Now, next in treatment is diagnostic, educating, and training. Enhanced training for professionals. Address the need for enhanced education and training for healthcare professionals, focusing on early recognition and accurate diagnosis of dissociative disorders. Another one is public awareness campaigns. Explore the importance of public awareness campaigns to destigmatize dissociative disorders and educate the general population on recognizing the signs. So there's a lot of therapists and psychologists that are coming out and saying, okay, there's issues here we need to take care of. One is imitative DID. Another is imitative DBT and other problems like autism, ADHD, all that. So they're becoming more aware, and they're making new tests to depict that apart. Stop the malingering, basically. Another thing that was kind of personal to me in the treatment is local community services. Find out how to connect with local community services and organizations that offer support, advocacy, and practical assistance for individuals with dissociative disorders. Now, where I live, it's a pretty small state, so I don't get a lot of interaction with other people. That's mostly online. But I do get to advocate for how to deal with symptoms, new techniques. My therapist works with other therapists and psychologists on the subject of DID. And the newest one is DVR. I'm very excited about DVR. I had my first appointment with DVR, and we are moving forward again, I do believe February 20th, I think. I'd have to look it up. I'm not good with dates, hence the reason we write everything down and have the phone go off. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with as far as something that I can do, maybe something to do with this subject here, which is DID, and learning and going back to school online here at home because of my agoraphobia and things like that. I'm hoping that this can go forward and become something that I can look forward to. And last, it is vital to look into social services and benefits and disability if your DID is causing a lot of ailments. For me, that was 25 jobs later, numerous amounts of health issues. So it is vital that you look into that. Some people that have DID are more than capable of working. Some are not. It just depends on how much trauma they've gone through in the assessments explaining their issues. So understand the role of social services in providing financial, housing, and healthcare support and how to access these benefits. And it can vary from state to state. So next we're going to touch on the subject of stigmas. And what I like about this book is they actually do touch the subject about the online stigma of DID. They also even have a chapter called Legal and Ethical Considerations. So they talk about rights and advocacy of DID. So anyway, let's talk about the stigma. One is breaking the silence of it. Basically standing up for yourself honestly and openly without demoralizing the disorder itself. And it says, read about individuals who have bravely shared their stories honestly and openly to break the stigma surrounding dissociative disorders. So I got that done. Another one is challenging misconceptions, which is another thing that I do. Discover how those personal narratives challenge common misconceptions and stereotypes about DID. And that is something that needs to be done. If you have not educated on it or gotten education on it, don't educate on it. If you're diagnosed with DID and you just were recently diagnosed in a year or two, it is vital that you do not educate on this disorder, because you can give misinformation to others or traumatize others or cause an issue or a new misconception. Next is family dynamics. Explore how dissociative disorders can impact family life and how families adapt and support their loved ones. And that is a huge issue with the stigma, because if you are not healing from it, and I've seen this multiple times on TikTok where people have an account that go on for years and years, yet their symptoms and their issues get worse and goofier and misplaced. It's misinformation. Friendships and social life. Learn about the challenges and triumphs in maintaining friendships and navigate social situations. So basically, I help people. I talk to people socially, but I also put up boundaries to keep myself and my family safe. Another one is battling stigma. Learn how individuals confront and overcome social stigma and misinformation about dissociative disorders. Be inspired by stories of individuals who take productive steps and honest educational steps to advocate for greater understanding, which is something that I do. Create a supportive environment. Explore the importance of creating a supportive environment, both personally and professionally. And I keep things as professional and personal as possible and very upfront and honest. If someone, instead of attacking me, comes up with a question, I'll gladly answer it. That's the issue with the internet these days, is everybody's out to gain followers, and the more followers they have, the more powerful they feel. Fulfilling goals and inspirations. Be motivated by stories of individuals who have achieved their goals and inspirations despite their challenges. And here it states, be careful but navigate through social situations. Learn how to handle social situations calmly and communicate effectively about one's condition when necessary. So if you notice, people on TikTok are very aggressive. They're very hurt, emotionally set. And the other thing I want to point out is to make sure that your therapist is aware of you making social media. Make sure that they watch and check in on it to make sure there's no misconceptions. Another thing you want to do is educate yourself on your platforms, especially with rules and regulations. It is vital that you learn these methods, because they can attack you, and I've had it done multiple times. Your email can be given out, your Facebook can be given out, all these things can be given out of your personal life, and people will use it to hurt you. And that is not something you need to be re-traumatized. I dealt with it pretty good to a point, but even then it bothered me and it upset me, and I had 9 years experience under my belt with this. So it says here, safe spaces. Highlight the significance of safe spaces and how to well-moderate communities can provide a supportive and non-judgmental environment. Offer guidance on how to deal with negative interactions, trolls, or misinformation that might occasionally arise in online spaces. So if you notice, if somebody makes a negative comment on my page, I will screenshot it, document it for further use, just in case I need to involve an investigator or, a police officer, etc. But I also just take it down. I don't even comment to them most of the percent of the time, because in my opinion, they are desperate for attention and they're not going to get it from me. Why should I waste my time giving attention to somebody who is bored and wants negativity? So another thing you want to do is give educational resources on your page. And that is something I do with almost most percent of my page, which is books and publications, online platforms, videos and documentaries, medical journals and articles, and professional associations. So I very much support the doctors that work with this disorder. They've put a lot of time and a lot of years into it. And I support the research and the education. And are there some things that people disagree with? Of course. But everybody's going to have a different story. Everybody's going to have different ways of treating themselves or their therapist treating them. It would be unethical if it wasn't. And another thing it repeats is overcoming obstacles, and one is the misunderstanding and stigma. Again, they talk about that in detail. The internal challenges, educating and awareness, and advocacy. So as far as advocacy, I do charities, but I I'm not a person that can do the charities personally, so I work with someone that does global charities, and this year we're looking at focusing on more mental health based charities towards mental illnesses, and I'm very excited about helping to advocate for that and share information about that. And basically it's a charity that works with gamers on YouTube that have mental health disorders and yet advocate for it to gain funding for their charity. They do it for free, and I'm excited about doing that again this year. This will be the third time this year I did this. So another thing you want to do is advance in treatment and promising research. So anything new is vital to helping dissociative disorders. So new medications, new therapy techniques, sharing information about promising research and what it could mean for future treatment options. Now, as far as the research of it and getting into that part of it that we just discussed, I'd like to get into the brain part of it, because stigmas have been very misinformed, especially on TikTok, about how the brain works and things like that. So I'm going to get into a little more detail on the brain part of this now. Now, last, I want to kind of get into the brain factor of this disorder, because a lot of people don't talk about it other than the researchers and doctors. And it states here in this book, neurological factors. Although rare, certain neurological conditions such as seizures or brain injuries can also lead to similar symptoms that look like dissociative amnesia. And they are correct on that, which is why I recommend, brain imaging. Here it states, understanding the ongoing scientific efforts not only provides insight into the complexities of these conditions, but also sheds light on potential advancements in diagnosis, treatment, and overall understanding. That's why it's scary for me to be a part of some of this stuff, but I find it useful because it's giving data to the people that treat it. Here it states, brain imaging research. Discuss how advancements in brain imaging technology such as fMRI are revealing new information about brain functions in individuals with dissociative disorders. New psychotherapeutic approaches. Highlight research into new psychotherapeutic techniques, including advancements in trauma-focused therapies and their impact on dissociative symptoms. Pharmacological studies. Examine ongoing studies exploring the efficacy of various medications in treating symptoms associated with dissociative disorders. I apologize. Sometimes my speech gets a little off. Another thing is the global research efforts. Offer insight into research conducted in different cultural contexts, emphasizing how dissociative disorders are understood and treated across various cultures. And that's a huge thing for me. The more you educate, the more you talk about these things, and learning more about it is what can be vital to people understanding it more easily. Another thing you want to do is have your therapist give a neurofeedback therapy. Delve into the neurofeedback therapy can help patients learn to regulate brain activity associated with dissociative symptoms, potentially leading to greater control and reduction of these symptoms. So basically realizing that, DID in itself is fake in its own way because your brain is doing it, not everything. It's how your brain is saving yourself. So once you understand that those past memories, when you see those flashbacks, are just past memories, it starts to make the process a little bit easier. Okay, and next is biofeedback techniques. Explore the use of biofeedback to teach patients how to control physiological processes such as heart rate that might be linked to dissociative experiences. Now, in various videos, I talk about the fluctuation of my blood pressure, my heart rate, my body temperature when I have dissociative spells. That's why we're trying to monitor it, because if I can control it, I can stay in a better non-dissociative state. Now here they talk about the function MRI, which is the fMRI, exploring the expanding role of fMRI in identifying specific brain patterns associated with dissociative disorders, potentially lead to more accurate diagnosis. So if you can get that brain scan through neurology for DID, get it done. It will help you, and it also makes assessments a lot quicker. Diffusing tensor imaging, DTI. Discuss how DTI, a type of MRI, could provide insights into microstructural changes in the brain associated with dissociative experiences. Now, another thing I like in this book is they talk about continuous monitoring, which my therapist, it's all her eyes and watching as much as humanly possible. but consider the role of wearable technologies in continuously monitoring physiological and behavioral indicators, providing a more comprehensive and real-time understanding of dissociative episodes, which is why in my previous video I'm asking about some kind of thing that I can wear that can monitor my blood pressure, heart rate, and body temperature and sleep to see where we're at home here instead of in a hospital-like setting. So a few other things they talk about is brainwave training. Explore the use of neurofeedback, a technique that teaches individuals to regulate their brainwave patterns, potentially reducing dissociative symptoms. So regulation. Physiological control. Discuss how biofeedback, which monitors and provides feedback on bodily functions like heart rate, can empower patients to gain better control over their responses to stress and triggers, which we just discussed. Somatic therapies. Investigate these use of somatic therapies, which focus on the connection between mind and body and addressing the physical manifestations of dissociation. Now, I've talked about somatic symptoms in great detail, how you literally think that you are back there wherever you are and there's pain in areas that I don't want to go into detail, but where you literally think that trauma is happening again, hence a somatic symptom. When you work through the memories, those somatic symptoms seem to kind of float away and get a little better. So last, it is vital to understand your brain and go through these things. And I'm sorry this is a little long, but I really loved the information out of this book. And understanding DID is very complex. And if you're starting out, I wouldn't recommend this book. I recommend focusing on the CPTSD part. Take it step by step, because if you start delving into some of what I do, it could be difficult for you to understand it, or you may give a misconception of it. So I focus mostly on trying to give honest and legit information as much as possible on the disorder itself. And the brain part was the most interesting. I think as I heal and I get better and better and more integration takes place, the more understanding of, in some ways I feel stupid, because it's like, why didn't I know this years ago, that I don't have to fear this, I can face this type thing. And you just kind of kick yourself in the butt. But 9 years I've been at this, and I'm going to continue to go at this. And like I'd stated, DVR is working with me, disabilities working with me. Everybody working together. Keep reporting the misinformation, get that taken down, all that. I am dealing with some other legal issues that I want to confront, but that will be brought up maybe in a future video or something. So, all right, well, that's all I have today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the content, and that's it. Loves. Bye.